What is up YouTube? Today, I've got a beginner's guide to Mirage. As usual, I have included chapters in the timestamps below so that you can skip to whichever section you need. Mirage is a hero that is fairly easy to understand, but he's also very rewarding when you master him. I would put him right up there with the rest of the S tier heroes right now. He just has strong poke damage and very good mobility, which allows him to control the map and outplay opponents in both teamfights and 1v1 skirmishes. Today, we'll take a look at Mirage's abilities and build, and I'll walk you through exactly how to make the most out of this character at every stage in the game. First, we take a little overview of all his abilities here. His 1 is a tornado, his 2 is scarabs that take health from people, his 3 is a little multiplier that sticks onto people and does damage, and traveler is number 4, which helps him teleport around the map to others, even teammates or enemies. And now let's get into more detail about his abilities here. We begin with his number 1, which is tornado, which reads, transform yourself into a tornado that travels forward, damaging enemies and lifting them up in the air. After emerging from the tornado, you gain bullet evasion. So the tornado itself does 70 damage. It will lift people for 1.1 seconds at level 1. It has a 0.25% bullet evasion chance, which lasts 3.5 seconds, and it affects a 3.5 meter radius. When you level it up with 1 ability point, you get plus 4 second lift duration. Level it up again and you get minus 14 second cooldown. Level it up one last time for a plus 20% bullet evasion chance. Now as you saw, it will travel for 20 meters, so as soon as you use it, that's 20 meters from here to where I started. And you can tell that it has that bullet evasion chance when you have the sand running all over your body here, as you can see. You can use this to catch up to people, maybe you can reach them quicker, but you do have to keep in mind that although they get lifted in the air here, they're not stunned. They can still shoot at you, even in the air. They can also parry, which is kind of a problem in the air, because a lot of the time you might think that you'd be able to do this and then punch them as soon as you get out of it, but that is not true. They can actually, as soon as you do this, they can parry right now and stop me. So you definitely don't want to be using it like that. The main way that you want to use this is to basically catch up to people or run away, and if you do use it to catch up to people, you turn around immediately and you start shooting them while they're in the air. You obviously want to aim for the head too. Now let's move on to his second ability here, which is fire scarabs. You get 4 charges of these, and it reads, start launching fire scarabs. Each scarab can be launched separately, stealing max health from enemies and applying bullet resist reduction. Cannot apply multiple scarabs to the same enemy. The health gain from hitting heroes is 3 times as effective as against non-heroes. So every time you hit somebody with this, you will steal 90 health from that target that you hit. It will reduce the bullet resist by 10%. You get 5 seconds to launch them. So as soon as you do launch the first one, you actually have 4, 3, 2, 1. You get 5 seconds basically to launch them until your ability goes on full cooldown here, and then you have to get your charges back. The debuffs, which is the health steal and the bullet resist, will last for 14 seconds. The ability has a 32-second cooldown, and you get 25% heal versus non-heroes. So as you can see, I just got plus 7 health there from using the fire scarab on that minion. But now let's say that I use it on this hero, I actually get 34. So you really want to keep that in mind for your fire scarabs. When you level it up the first time, you get a minus 15 second cooldown. When you level it up one more time with 2 ability points, you get negative 15% bullet resist on whoever you hit with it. And on the last level, you get a plus 20 max health steal. So now you'll be stealing 160 health, which does stack pretty well with spirit damage. This is one of those abilities that when you get to stack up spirit damage very early in the game, you can really destroy somebody's health by even like 50% of their health all in one hit. So this is very nice to have. You can combine that with a tornado by doing this, and then you know where they're at. You can definitely hit them pretty easily here. Just remember that you can't use it more than once on the same enemy. And because you can't hit the same enemy more than once with it, a really good idea that you can do during the lane phase is actually hit 3 minions and then the enemy, for example, and you get the most amount of health that you can possibly get. Now your number 3 ability is Jin's Mark. This is the best ability in your kit here, and it reads, passive. Your shots apply an increasing multiplier on the target. When the multiplier on a target expires or you reach the max, it is consumed and the target suffers spirit damage, and is briefly revealed on the map. The final damage is the base damage times the multiplier. When you first unlock it, your base damage is 12, and it stacks with spirit damage at a rate of 0.6. Now your max multiplier that you can apply to an enemy is 8. The cooldown between the multiplier is 2.5 seconds, which is that little circle that you just saw there. Now the multiplier duration is 4.5 seconds, and the reveal duration is 3 seconds. You can also use it as an active, where you actually press the button when you have multipliers on people, and it will consume all the multipliers of Jin's Mark to deal its damage right now. When you level it up with 1 ability point, you get to apply an 80% slow for 0.5 seconds whenever you apply apply 2 times or higher multiplier. When you level it up again with 2 ability points, you get a plus 4 second multiplier duration and a plus 10 base damage. On the last level, you get a minus 0.5 second cooldown between multiplier and a plus 4 max multiplier. So this will actually take it to plus 12 instead of the plus 8. Now every time that you hit somebody, for example here, you apply 1 times 2 is 2, then you multiply that by 2 again, you get a 4, multiply that by 2 again, you get an 8, then you do that one more time, but it doesn't stack all the way up there. It would be 16 if it did, but that would be too strong, so it actually just goes up to 12. Now I really want to show you the amount of damage that this thing can do. It's kind of crazy. Let's say that you have a 1 multiplier here. Let's turn it up to 2. A 2 multiplier here, you use the ability and now you get 44 damage. Obviously the multiplier and the damage is gonna increase the more that you do it. Every 2 seconds you can apply a new stack. And remember, having a 2 multiplier did 44 damage. Having this last stack here did 264 damage at the max level here, and I have no items right now. Very early in the game, this is really such a good ability that you can definitely just harass people way more than you would think. For example here, as you can see, he has a little yellow dot, which means that I can only hurt him about half of the regular damage that I would do to him actually happens. So if we hit him here, you do 12 damage. You hit him back here with a red dot, and I actually only deal 2 damage. That's basically nothing. So let's go back to the yellow damage here and apply another stack. Now apply one more stack and just apply the last stack. Let's see, it was 250 something damage before, and as you can see, 264 damage. That means it doesn't really matter how far you are from the enemy. As long as you have these stacks, you can actually kick them off and hit them as far as you possibly want, and it will be doing that 264 damage. Let's do one more stack here. Bam, 264 damage, although my bullets only did 1 damage because I'm super far. You can abuse that during the laning phase. You can actually stick as far as you possibly can and still harass the enemies as just an incredible amount. And don't forget that this ability, when you have 2 or more stacks on the person, actually lets you see them on the map. You can't see the map in this little sandbox here, but you'd be able to see them on there. And you can trigger it whenever you want. So let's say that your enemy only has a little bit of health here. You can actually just trigger it whenever you want. Let's say they're running away so you can't shoot them anymore. You can just trigger it at any moment so that you don't let them heal. This is just such an amazing ability, and it's really what makes Mirage Mirage. Now, your last ability here is called Traveler. It has a 130 second cooldown, which is very slow, and it reads channeled. Target an ally or visible enemy hero on the minimap, then teleport to where they were when your channel started. After teleporting, you gain movement speed as well as fire rate until your next reload. The channeling takes 2.5 seconds. The movement speed increase that it gives you on the other side after you've teleported is plus 2 meters per second, you have a plus 20% fire rate, and you get that 4-second movement speed duration. When you level it up once, you get plus 2 meters per second more movement speed. When you level it up with 2 ability points, you get minus 30 seconds cooldown. And all the way at the max level, you get a plus 30% fire rate increase. It has a 100 second cooldown, so you're not gonna have this on every team fight, but what you can do is, for example, you're in a random lane. Let's say that you're in purple, which is all the way to the left or something. Meanwhile, there's a team fight happening at yellow. Push out the lane fully, and as soon as you're done, just use your ultimate and go all the way to that team fight. That's why he's such a good hero, that you can actually just split push and still be present in every fight that you really need to be in. And now that I've teleported, you see on the bottom left here that increased fire rate, which is a lot. You also get that movement speed increase too, which is really going to help you in most situations. He will have such a huge map presence. He could be anywhere at any moment. Now to finish off with the abilities, I really want to show you that combination that I like to do in between these 2 abilities, the Fire Scarabs and the Jin's Mark, in the laning phase of the game. What I really like to do is just not really shoot the enemy that much. I like to, just get the minions, whatever, but keep building the stacks. All you have to do here, let's say you build up the stacks up to about 8. I use a Fire Scarab on him, and you see how little health he already has, and then bam, once it triggers, he's basically dead. And that can really surprise people in the very early game. When you don't really take away that much health, they might have just a little below half health, and then you hit them with this combo, and they can't do anything about this. They're just pretty much dead right here, even with only a 4 multiplier. I say that, and I left him with about 1 health, but yeah, that's the idea. And now for the builds, what I really like to do during the laning phase here is get all these 500 soul items. I first begin with Ammo Scavenger because it does give you that spirit power per soul, which is very strong with Jin's Mark. So this pretty much always is my number 1 item. Then I either go for extra regen, depending if the enemy is actually harassing me or not, or Mystic Burst for the same reason with Jin's Mark. In the early game, this is a crazy crazy ability that always surprises people. So either Mystic Burst or extra regen. I tend to go for extra regen, but I like to go Mystic Burst. Then I go for Headshot Booster because it just gives you way more damage with this already high damage weapon that you have. And before the laning phase is done, I like to get Mystic Shot for the weapon damage and spirit power, Soul Shredder Bullets for the weapon damage again, and a 10% spirit amplifier. I also like to get Sprint Boots before the laning phase ends because that sprint speed is extra useful and the health regen is always nice along with the 4% weapon damage. Then hopefully you're able to get both things, both Fleetfoot and Quicksilver Reload, but you'll probably only be able to get one of these two items before the laning phase ends, and I do tend to go for Quicksilver Reload first, which you of course put on your Jin's Mark, because the cooldown on it is extremely short. Now, extra stamina is extremely useful on him in my opinion because you of course only have 3 stamina, and he's a hero that doesn't really have that much mobility aside from his 1. His tornado will stop him from getting hit by a lot of things, it actually disjoints things, but I do like to dodge around and jump around a lot, so extra stamina has always come in handy. Bullet armor or spirit armor depending on who you're going up against, but most of the time they're gonna have some kind of spirit damage. Very early in the game, if you do need spirit resistance, I actually like going for Enchanter's Barrier more because it gives you that spirit shield health immediately and you get more spirit power, which is very useful with again your Jin's Mark. So kind of weigh your options here, whether you need bullet armor, spirit armor, combat barrier, or Enchanter's Barrier. I like to get at least one of them. So after I got Fleetfoot, which happens pretty much every single game, I do like to go for Mystic Vulnerability that gives you more spirit resist, and it gives you that spirit resist reduction for the enemy, which is extremely useful when you're using Jin's Mark. Remember that we're basing everything on Jin's Mark here basically. At this point in the game, Reactive Barrier might come really in handy because there's people that will be stunning you a lot, especially in this sort of meta. So that 400 bullet shield health and that 200 spirit shield health whenever you're stunned, locked, whatever, are very nice to have. To be a little scarier, you can also go for Duration Extender here during the mid game. That way people stuck in your tornado are actually stuck there for longer. At this point in the game, I like to do a little bit of thinking to try to find out if I should be farming a lot and split pushing, in which case I will get Ricochet, which I really do a lot of my games. Let's say 80% of my games are done with Ricochet so that I can push out one lane and then teleport to the furthest lane, for example, if there's a team fight. But Ricochet lets you farm a lot quicker, so I really like to go for this. It gives you that extra ammo, fire rate, bonus health, all this good stuff along with the weapon damage. And most importantly, it will apply Jin's Mark to every single thing that gets hit by Ricochet. That's really why I like to use it. But it might be a little bit too early for Ricochet depending on how much money I have. In that case, if I actually need to go for more immediate damage, then I will get Surge of Power before I get Ricochet. If your team needs you right here, right now to do damage, then Surge of Power on 3 at this point in the game, which would be the mid game. Otherwise Ricochet, so that you can either catch up or keep a lead that you might already have. Toxic Bullets is next, because after you have Ricochet, you can actually apply the Toxic Bullets just like you would Jin's Mark. So you can actually apply 2 things at once using Ricochet. Then Surge of Power, I really like getting this ability, and of course you put it on Jin's Mark. Now that it's imbued, you're doing a ridiculous amount of damage with Jin's Mark. Enduring Speed is always nice to have at this point in the game. If you don't have enough flex slots yet, then just keep upgrading these items here that have a little check mark, especially as Escalating Exposure. But if you do have more flex slots, then you have a little bit more freedom and get Pristine Emblem. You want to replace Ammo Scavenger because at this point in the game it really just does nothing. Headhunter for that weapon damage, that bullet shield health, and the fire rate. And of course you do get that +2 meters per second movement speed and the heal per headshot, all those kind of good stuff. Spiritual Overflow is a really good ability to get on him because you get that +15 cooldown reduction, that spirit lifesteal, that bullet shield health, all these things that just help you out so much. And of course you do build up your spirit power and your fire rate and all these good things just by shooting at people. At this point in the game, you should probably start getting rid of things like Mystic Shot here. It's a very good option to get rid of. Now we're reaching the late stages of the game. At this point, you should already have some kind of improved bullet armor or improved spirit armor. Usually improved spirit armor will do more for you. So let's replace our extra regen. Now you want to start upgrading things like improved burst, your escalating exposure, superior duration, and you put that on your tornado so that people stay up in the tornado for a lot longer. And then leech. Leech is a very good ability, and at this point you finally replace your extra stamina. Of course, if you never got it, then you don't need to replace it, but it's just a very good item. And now this is what your build would probably look like at the end of the game here. You have a whole bunch of weapon damage using your Headhunter, your Pristine Emblem, Spiritual Overflow, toxic bullets, ricochet, fleet foot, and your soul shredder bullets. But most importantly, you have an insane amount of spirit, especially with the escalating exposure, which you get the plus 15% spirit resist, more bonus health, and negative 12% spirit resist on the spirit damage. Now, anytime that you deal spirit damage, you apply a stacking spirit amp that increases your spirit damage to the target. Imagine that with ricochet, because now you can have Jin's mark applied to multiple enemies all at once, hit the number 3 button real quick to get more stacks of escalating exposure. This whole setup will give you so much spirit damage that the enemies just won't know what to do with that. For survivability, Leech helps so much because you get your spirit lifesteal here, which as you can tell, we're going to be doing a lot of spirit damage using Jin's mark, so you can almost heal yourself fully by hitting one full 12 times max multiplier on an enemy. Enduring speed so you can run fast, reactive barrier for stuns and locking and immobilizing and sleeping and all those kinds of things. Quicksilver reload to help with the reloads. Surge of power because your Jin's mark needs more power. Improved burst because your Jin's mark needs more damage. And superior duration so that you can have people locked there on the tornado for longer. This type of build can be used in almost every single game and you'll be dealing heaps of damage. As you get better at the game, of course, you can edit out the build depending on your situation, but you should definitely try out this build here, and let me know how it goes for you. Now let me give you a few tips for the early game, the mid game, and the late game. The early game, otherwise known as the laning phase, I really would like for you to basically, just go for the usual, where you kill the creeps, you get their souls, you do all the good stuff, but then every time you see the enemy, just apply a stack. And then as soon as it gets off cooldown, which you will see that little purple icon, you can apply another stack here, and then run back, don't let them hit you too much, hit another stack. Get whatever creep, hit another stack. That will do way more damage than you would ever expect. Even if they have that little red icon or dark orange icon, which is how much damage you're gonna be dealing at a distance, you can still do all the damage because this is a spirit damage ability. This is not your bullet weapon damage. So because of that, you're able to harass a lot during the early game, during the laning phase. And as long as the enemy lets themselves get stacked with Jin's mark, you will have basically full control over the lane. So to recap, during the early game, you should be going for the stacks as often as you possibly can, then get the creeps, get a stack, get the creeps, get another stack whenever you see it, and then finish them off here with your scarabs and the damage done from Jin's mark. And now of course the way that you would go for kills during the laning phase, I want to show you this here. You would keep applying stacks, you go for the creeps, you do all the good stuff, keep applying stacks, you hit them as much as you can, of course, keep doing all this. Now once they're a little low, so he's like at half health right now, keep going for the minions, do all that, keep applying stacks. When you see them at, let's say like a 4 stack, at that point you start waiting, you wait for the next one to go off cooldown, and then you just do that, along with the scarab. A lot of the time, they don't expect to be dealt that much damage all at once. But if you just follow this idea, where all you're doing is applying a couple stacks here, they're not going to notice the damage really stacking up to them. They're not going to notice this. So during the laning phase, that is very powerful. In the mid game, because you have your traveler ability here, your teleport, because you have that ability, you can actually push out lanes very quickly and then just show up to team fights. So that's what you want to be doing. You want to be clearing out your lanes here during the mid game, getting as many camps as possible, as quickly as possible, of course, so that you can save up for things like ricochet. And once you do have ricochet, you can see that you apply these stacks here. You should get ricochet during about the mid game. This will help you push out lanes quicker, and it will help you deal damage to enemies that are just closer together. And once you push out the lane, your creeps are all the way over here. Hey, that's great and all. Bam, you go and teleport away to whatever teamfight you're going through. Now during the late game, you're gonna have all these items, so you're actually just gonna be doing the same thing as in the mid game, just finishing out, pushing the lanes, making sure that you have access to whatever objectives you need to have access to. But now you're gonna have toxic bullets, and you're gonna be doing your damage with the Jin's mark. All of that combined means that people die really easily, especially because you're stacking up. You're doing the escalating exposure, which is very powerful. And remember, because you have ricochet, you can actually apply multiple things to multiple people all in one shot. So people should be scared of you even in the late game. You just sit back. This is during team fights, of course. You just sit back and do stuff from all the way back here, and you'll be killing them, doing whatever you need to. But just like in the mid game, you want to push out the lanes as much as possible, do your thing, and then finally, once you get the objective, or let's say that somebody's on the minimap trying to reach you, then you just teleport away, go to whatever team fight, go to whatever place you should go to depending on what's happening around the map, and then just farm camps. That's it. That's literally the whole late game right there. Then whenever there's a team fight, sit back. You should not be one of the first people in, but you should be sitting back from very far, let's say about here, and just doing all the damage that you can. Now, using your tornado and your fleet foot that you will have in the late game, you can easily chase people. Just don't get too crazy with it. You can definitely just do stuff like this, using your fleet foot, run away, you know, just keep chasing them as much as possible. People are gonna have a hard time because the more stacks you apply to them, the more damage you will deal to them. So in the late game, you are a monster. People should be scared of you. Push out lanes and show up to every single team fight with your traveler ability here. But of course, keep farming and keep going for the objectives. Mirage's strengths lie on his ability to poke, control the map, and take enemies by surprise with his teleport and just showing up to team fights after pushing a lane. So make sure to stay mobile, play smart, and you'll be carrying your games in no time with a build like this. If you found this video helpful, just don't forget to leave a like, comment with any questions or feedback, and I'll see you on the next one. Owl out.